In May 1921, northern Oklahoma was quiet, its rich oil lands offering a serene backdrop. Yet, hidden deep within the dense forests and remote valleys, a story was unfolding. In a far-off corner of this world, the body of Anna Brown, a member of the Osage tribe, was discovered. Anna's body was in a state of advanced decomposition, as if time itself had slipped away from her. This wasn't just an ordinary death. It marked the beginning of a mysterious enigma. Why, and why now? People asked, was this an isolated crime, or was something much larger at play? The preliminary investigations seemed unable to hide the mounting suspicions. Following the discovery of Anna's body, the initial investigations began to shed light on the possibility of murder. While the evidence was limited, strange signs continued to emerge. It was clear that Anna had been of significant interest within the Osage community. She wasn't just an ordinary person. She was part of a wealthy tribe, owning land that lay at the heart of America's oil boom. The early investigations pointed toward the possibility that her death was more than just an accident. Was it a personal motive, or part of a deeper, hidden conspiracy? As investigators focused on finding clues about Anna's murder, the situation worsened. Another body of an Osage tribe member was found in the same area. This body, too, was in a state of severe decomposition, increasing the suspicions that something more sinister was occurring. While the families mourned in silence, something larger was unfolding in the shadows. These incidents kept piling up, but why? Were these just coincidences, or was someone behind the scenes attempting to seize something more precious than life itself? By the end of the year, it became clear that what was happening in northern Oklahoma was no mere series of accidents. Crimes began to escalate suddenly, with many members of the Osage tribe dying under mysterious circumstances. The killings were not limited to Anna or the second victim. Soon, more bodies were discovered, each one disappearing under strange conditions. What was even more chilling was that these victims were all individuals of influence and wealth, owners of the oil profits controlled by the Osage tribe. Were these crimes targeted, or was there a hidden hand pulling the strings behind them? As the facts began to unfold, it became increasingly evident that the key to these murders lay in the wealth of the Osage tribe. The tribe possessed vast fortunes, thanks to the oil discovered on their land. This immense wealth had attracted greedy eyes. It seemed as though this treasure was the very reason behind the string of killings. There were signs pointing to the fact that the killers were targeting these wealthy families, killing them to seize land or oil. But the most important question remained: who was behind these crimes? Was there someone plotting this from the very beginning? While the authorities worked to verify evidence and follow leads, the situation grew more complex. More members of the Osage tribe began to disappear under mysterious circumstances. These disappearances raised alarms, as every time a body was found, new signs of other crimes emerged. The disappearance of these individuals pointed to something horrifying. Was the killing just the beginning? Or was there a methodical effort to systematically target the indigenous people? It became increasingly clear that there was a large, sinister plan behind these tragedies. At this point, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, intervened in the case. This was highly unusual at the time, as crimes within Native communities were typically left to local authorities. But this case was different. Things had spiraled out of control, and the killings appeared more organized than ever. The involvement of the FBI meant that there was something larger at play than just isolated crimes. As the investigation expanded, questions arose about the oil wealth, internal conflicts within the community, and a deeper conspiracy at hand. As time went on, the body of another Osage man was found. His death mirrored the previous crimes. The same method, the same strange circumstances. Suspicion grew that these murders were financially motivated, with killings being used as a means to seize property. The families were being attacked systematically, leading investigators to suspect that a larger plan was behind these events. Was the murder simply a way to gain control of the oil wealth? And was there someone working behind the scenes to profit from this? As the investigation progressed, it became evident that local collusion was involved in the murders. There were individuals within the community who might have been aware of the events or even involved in them. These crimes required meticulous planning and constant surveillance of the victims. Signs began to surface that the killers might not have been strangers, but perhaps neighbors or acquaintances. The mystery deepened, and families began to question who was behind these murders, and were they all at risk of the same fate. By the end of 1921, investigators discovered that all the victims had been systematically targeted. There was no doubt that the murders were carefully planned. The wealthy families, those who held oil rights, were being specifically chosen. The evidence pointed to a larger network behind these crimes, with people seeking to forcibly seize wealth. Investigators faced enormous challenges in identifying the perpetrators. How could they stop this growing threat that loomed over the remaining members of the tribe? After months of investigation, several local suspects were arrested. They were individuals from the area who had dealings with members of the Osage tribe. There was evidence suggesting their involvement in some of the murders, but the proof was still insufficient to bring them to trial. However, things began to take a new direction. Who were these suspects? Were they mere tools in the hands of a larger, more powerful force? The investigation gained momentum as new developments emerged in the case. As the investigation continued, the truth came to light. An organized crime network was behind the Osage murders. This network consisted of local individuals and groups seeking to profit from the tribe's oil wealth. It became clear that the murders were a way for this network to seize Osage land and property. Once the key players in the story were uncovered, the picture became clearer. These murders were not isolated events, but part of a massive conspiracy targeting the Osage people. As time passed, the trial of the suspects began. During the trial, investigators revealed the true motive behind the murders: money. All the crimes were linked to the transfer of oil wealth from the Osage tribe. The motivation was purely financial, and the facts grew more chilling with every passing day of the trial. The trial showed that these murders were far more than random acts of violence. They were part of a well-organized effort to seize a vast fortune. After intense investigations, the mastermind behind the murders was finally arrested. He was a person of influence within the local community, someone who had used his power to manipulate the course of the investigations. The biggest shock came when it was revealed that the person arrested was part of a much larger crime syndicate operating in the shadows. How had he orchestrated all these murders? And how had he managed to deceive everyone? In the end, the case was closed after the perpetrators were brought to trial, but the impact of the crimes on the community remained irreversible. The Osage people continued to suffer the trauma of the murders that targeted them, with fear lingering for years afterward. This story serves as a reminder that greed can drive people to commit horrific acts, and the consequences are always catastrophic. True story source: the Osage murders. Case took place in Oklahoma in 1921 and was officially closed in 1930 after multiple investigations and trials.